Let's Get To presents Go Go Astros, a focus on H-Town hardball.
So the Astros are down 0-1 in the World Series, and I'm not even all that concerned. I'm concerned, like, I hate that Charlie Morton broke his leg. That's awful. Charlie's always going to be a guy that people in Houston are going to love, and we should. And he pitched us to our first World Series. Still your 2017 World Series champions, by the way. So I hate that he's injured. It's always fun to watch him pitch, so I hate that. But I'm not going to get too worried about the game. We're going to have folks on to talk about that here in a second. I just want to explain to everybody out there that's watching this that maybe isn't an Astros fan, or maybe you're a new Astros fan and you don't understand the intricacies of the Astros relationship with the MLB. But my issue with Manfred and the roof has nothing to do with whether the roof should be open or closed. It has everything to do with it. It should be the city of Houston's. It should be the Astros' choice, not Rob Manfred. The fact is that you play for home field advantage for a reason. One of the advantages of home field at Minute Maid Park is it's really two things. One, it is the crowd noise. It gets louder. The players feast on it. It's part of the Minute Maid experience. The other thing is that the Astros have played with the roof closed for the vast majority of the season. They know how the ballpark plays, just like how Atlanta knows how Truist Park plays, and the Astros are going to take some time to figure it out. When you open the roof, the park plays different. It just does. And now the Astros have played maybe 10 more games than the Braves will have played there with the roof open, and they did it in April. You make it almost, as far as just the dynamics of the ballpark and how it plays, a neutral stadium. The fact is that Manfred shouldn't be up. This should not be Rob Manfred's call. This shouldn't be anybody's call other than the Houston Astros. And the reason why I think it ticks us off so much isn't even just that they want the roof open or that they want it, a certain way. They want their blimp shot. Let's be honest. You know what? It's 2021. You can figure out a way to use that in After Effects. But it just is another example of Major League Baseball doing what it wants to the Astros, regardless of what the city of Houston or the people of Astros fans think. And it's something they don't do to every other team. I mean, it's going back to moving the Astros to the AL in the first place. Whether we agree with the decision now, whether we're happy with it now, whether we've made do with it now. And I would say that my sleep schedule about 50 times a year when the games start after 9:30 doesn't agree with it. That was done to appease another team. That was done to appease the Bud Selig and the Milwaukee Brewers. The concept of the Astros having to play a neutral site game against Chicago with playoffs on the line, and they picked Milwaukee to play there. It has been a constant battle with the commissioner's office and Major League Baseball at large versus the city of Houston. And that's not even getting into the way the 2017 results were, the 2017 investigations were handled, and the way the results of those were released. That's not even touching on that third rail of baseball politics, if you will. So the fact is, I'm irritated about it. I'm actually curious to see if it will really happen. Maybe they'll say they forgot the keys to open the roof at home, and so they just don't have time to get back with Houston traffic. That's what I would do. But it's just another example of, like, Manfred needs to worry about what Manfred needs to worry about. And here's a tip, Manfred. I have some advice for you. Before you try to open a roof, that's a big deal. It's hard. Maybe open something smaller, something easier, kind of like practice. Make sure you can actually open something. I don't know. How about a letter? All right, we're jumping back on Go Astros. Damn it, hold on. Hey, Andy, that was our friend Mike Donis telling me he fell asleep 3 times in Dune. I wonder if that's a.
I'm not hearing great things.
No, but they made a second. They're making a second one. So, all right, here we go. So we're jumping back on Go Astros. We've got Andy and Brian. And look, guys, in the opening, I said, listen, talking about Manfred in the roof. The fact of the matter is, I don't really care whether it's open or closed. I like going to Minute Maid when the roof is open. But the fact is that they're used to playing with the roof closed. You remove a home field advantage from that perspective, and it shouldn't be the commissioner's office making that decision. Andy, thoughts?
I don't honestly care if the roof is open or not. It's going to be lovely this evening if the weather forecast is correct. It's going to be like 69 degrees, a little bit chilly.
By the way, we are looking live at Houston, Texas.
But this is
right
Houston
now,
behind me right now. And that's one of the reasons we have a roof, because weather is unpredictable. And if you told me this front is going to stall here and linger for the next 8 hours, I go, sure, because Houston, and I'll miss my flight to New York today. It's more along the lines, and I know longtime listeners are going to be tired of hearing this. And certainly if you follow on Twitter or remember from the orange whoop ass days, this is just a series, the latest in a series of slights or outright disrespect, or just, I can't come up with better words for it, from the Major League front office to the Houston baseball franchise. The biggest of which, of course, was being forced to move to the American League in the first place as a condition of sale, which has never, ever, ever happened in the history of baseball. Knowing that both Colorado and Arizona have something in their actual franchisee contract saying they would move leagues if a situation presented itself, but we were forced to, so Jim Crane could buy the team. Getting neutral site games in Chicago and Milwaukee, the commissioner's office, who doesn't want to get involved in local politics in some things, not forcing Arlington to switch a series with us as a result of a hurricane, because we didn't want to disrupt the Arlington fans.
Let me interrupt. He doesn't want to get involved in local politics in the same conversation when he says, I don't want to deal with the tomahawk chop. It's a local issue.
Can
a roof be more local than possible racism?
Teams should be allowed to manage their stadiums the way they see fit. And if the Astros believe they have a home field advantage because the roof is closed, they should be allowed to have that. Just like if the Braves believe a bunch of idiots chopping their hands and doing a fake war chant gives them home field advantage, they should be allowed to do that. And why he's picking on one and allowing the other is just beyond me, but it is absolutely par for the course of being an Astros fan. And our Yankee fan listeners, our Dodger fan listeners, our Cubs fans listeners will never understand this, because this has never, ever happened to them.
Brian, I feel like you're going to bring a little bit of calmness to this conversation.
I have two positions here. If the Braves want to open or close their roof in Game 3, it is their choice. And after 5 straight World Series losses with the roof closed, maybe we should try it the other way. I doubt that's actually much of a factor one way or the other, but I'm willing to try something different at this point.
That might be the best point. I think the other thing to me, though, and I mentioned it briefly, was, and we'll move to the game, but the ballpark does play a little different. It feels a little different. And so if you drop the Astros into that, they have maybe 10 more games experience in that exact environment than the Braves do. And that experience came in April. You should get to play your own ballpark the way you want to play it. And I do think, again, he punted on the racism thing, but he made damn sure he says we're going to open up that roof. Brian, what exactly went awry yesterday, particularly with Framber? He could not have been any more different. I mean, and this is what we've been dealing with. And Andy and I we play a game, good Framber, bad Framber, on Messenger.
Didn't need to play last night.
What went wrong with him?
He was not in the strike zone. And when he was in the strike zone, he was higher in the strike zone than he usually is. So Framber is this really unique pitcher he gets ground balls and strikeouts. He got some strikeouts yesterday, but he got almost no ground balls. He got tons of balls hit in the air on line drives, and almost all of the contact against him was very hard.
He also got a lot of those, there's this crazy guy that calls him the 790, this crazy old guy. And he's always like, they got to go with the pitch. He's the go with the pitch guy, man. But the Braves did that last night. There was a lot of beating the shift, barely kind of baseball stuff, hard hit line drives. It was weird. Andy, what did you see out of him?
So I don't remember who the home plate umpire was last night, because once I realized it wasn't Culpa, I kind of Halloran, I kind of decided not to pay attention. And what I'm about to say is not blaming the umpire for Framber's issues, but he's not a guy that calls the low strike, and Framber needs the sinker to be called a low strike for his curveball to be effective. He wasn't getting that call. He went 2-0 on Soler as the first batter, had to go up with the next pitch, and he tattooed it into left field. That was Framber's night. And Morton had the same thing. So it's not like they were picking on Framber and not giving him part of the zone that they were giving Morton or Minter after that.
I agree with Andy. I thought the zone was consistent, but consistent and tight.
But nobody was getting the low strike, and Framber needs the low strike. And that was a big part of it. And then just inconsistency. You can't throw where he threw to those hitters. And some of that is one of the great thing about the World Series is you don't have familiarity with these hitters as a pitcher and vice versa. And you're going to have to feel your way through a little bit. And he didn't do a good job of it. And I don't know how good a job Strom and the pitching staff, the pitching coaches did in preparing him for that. But not getting that low strike call is pretty much a death knell for him in any kind of start.
Yeah, I felt like Charlie was gettable, and obviously he leaves the game for the worst possible reason. And we are going to talk about what the impact, because that has an impact on the series. Like, I think he's hands down their best starter. They expect him to start 3 games in this series, and we'll talk about it. But I think all of us know what Charlie means to the city, means to this baseball team. It was badass that he continued to pitch on a broken leg, but he also was gettable. It looked like for the same reasons. It's just when you're given a hole that way, that kind of hole, it's hard to bounce back.
Yep. And I think the story of last night beyond Framber was a 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position for the Astros. There were opportunities all night long, certainly early against Charlie, that we just did not capitalize on. I don't think a lot of people want to talk about it yet, but Altuve is in a huge slump and has been for a number of games now. Game 4, I guess, notwithstanding, where he tied the game. I think that's his last extra base hit in any playoff game. That's a problem. He left I say this a lot, and it's obviously copying Major League, but he left a small village on the base path last night. And that 2-out approach where he was it's not a pop-up. I don't know what you call that when it just goes out to where the pitcher is kind of standing in the air. It didn't go high enough to be a pop-up. It wasn't hard enough to be a line out. So I don't know. It just ball in air, but that was a horrible at bat. And he's had a lot of those.
Brian, one of the big things going around the internet, and it reminds me of 2017 a little bit, where move George down in the lineup. I didn't think about moving George down in the lineup, and I don't think we should move Altuve down from the lineup. But I wonder if Bregman doesn't not need to be moved down to the lineup. Do we bring Gurriel higher in the order? Do we bring Tucker higher in the order? Where, I mean, there were opportunities to score runs, and if Tucker had an opportunity with less than 2 outs, he might have been able to make something happen. As it was, he hit the ball hard and was just thrown out. But what do you think? Bregman moving down?
Yeah, the offense was bad last night. And for me, that's a bigger story than the pitching, because, it's the fewest number of runs they've scored in any game this playoff. We expect them to have a consistent offense. And last night they didn't. But, as I say frequently, I'm less worried about the Astros offense on a day-to-day basis, because I don't expect they're going to continue to score 2 runs. I expect that they will break out and score a bunch of runs. So if you want to do things to shake things up, that's fine. My guess is Dusty has faith in his players. And, it's worth noting this here. The Astros were down in the LCS just last week. They were down in the LCS against the Yankees. They lost the first game in 2019. They were down in both the LCS and the World Series in 2017. Being down a game is not something they've been there before. I don't expect anything. I expect them to play well tonight.
Andy, thoughts on reordering the lineup?
Why at this point? This is people that I get that there will be some people who are paid for their opinions sharing the same opinion, but there is no benefit at this point to tinkering with a batting lineup that has got you to the World Series. Barring somebody breaking a leg, sorry, Charlie. There is no moving Jose Altuve out of a leadoff spot where he has been all season long. There is no moving Bregman out of the third spot where he has been, barring injury, all season long. Our lineup is what it is, and it was perfectly fine a game ago when they scored 9 runs, or 2 games ago when they scored 12 runs, or all season long where they led the league or led Major League Baseball in offense. The batting order isn't the issue. They had a bad game last night, and we still, to this day, and I will be very happy when we get past this as a baseball city, still want to football our baseball. Oh my God, it's 1 game and we're dying. And yes, I get everything is heightened during the World Series and during a playoff series, but it is still one game, and there are at least 3 more to play, if not 6 more to play. And I, call this as a 7-game series because I think these teams are pretty evenly matched in different ways. So you're going to lose 3 games, and if you win a series in 7, this is 1. And historically, we're 0 for 4 in game 1s in the World Series.
And I would like to point out that Dusty lost his only World Series by winning game 1. So already we are on a different track, boys and girls. But yeah, I tend to agree. I tend to not thinking, and I just love the idea that you can have the AL batting champion hit 7th. It really makes the lineup feel that much scarier. All right, so let's look for optimism. I really feel like we're going to get a bounce back start from Urquidy. I think some of what his struggles have been inconsistent. And going back to the offense, it does seem like it often struggles after a day off. I don't know why that is, but it does seem like it takes some home cooking. But Brian, what are some reasons why you feel like we need to feel positive going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Jose Urquidy. Part of why they moved him up to game 2 is because they thought he had lost some of his feel, having too long a rest between his last start of the regular season and his start in game 3 of the ALCS. Jose Urquidy is a guy who throws strikes and throws tons of strikes, so I don't think we'll see him get behind in the count like Framber did yesterday. And I think he's a better pitcher than he gets credit for, and hopefully we'll see that tonight.
Any what are you looking for out of Urquidy tonight?
Like I look for any start, I hope we can get 5 out of him. I think we should. They were very clearly trying to stretch Framber as long as they could get innings out of him. And kudos to Odorizzi for coming in and kind of cleaning the mess. That's a weapon if he can continue to do that for the rest of the series, because I have a feeling we're going to need him. But Urquidy's going to be fine. He's not the flashiest guy. The great thing about Urquidy is he's not going to have Framber's problems because he doesn't throw balls. He just keeps pumping strikes into the zone. And he's got a little bit of machismo about him, where he's going to try to challenge hitters. And so that means, yes, he's going to give up a home run. And yes, he's going to give up some hits that some other pitchers might, but he's not going to walk guys and he's not going to nibble around the strike zone. And I think that's one of the things that got Framber in trouble yesterday when he realized he wasn't getting that low strike call. He didn't have another place to go. Jose Urquidy is going to go over the plate, which, is a strategy.
Let's talk a little bit about Charlie Morton then, Brian. I mean, I think, it's weird. It was a weird ebb and flow of the situation because I hate seeing guys go out for injury. I hate, the Astros are going to be able to lean on if we lose this series. Well, we didn't have Lance. And now, you want to see the best teams at full strength. But for that matter, we didn't have Justin Verlander. Boy, how sweet would that be? But we at first it looked like I thought hamstring. And then they said, well, okay, deflected off his ankle, maybe just swollen, and then obviously broken leg. How does this affect Atlanta going forward? Because does it kind of lessen their one big strength they had against the Astros?
Yes, it does. The Braves have problems at their 4th starter, and they used an opener in the National League Championship Series for Drew Smyly, who I think went 3 2/3. And the other guy they started this postseason is Huascar Ynoa, who is injured and off the roster. So, yeah, this is an issue for the Braves figuring out how they're going to go. They also used AJ Minter for big innings yesterday, one of their top relievers, and I would assume he's unavailable today. They had to go to a lot of their bullpen yesterday, and they went to their A bullpen. They went to their best relievers to finish the game. So that'll have knock-on effects today in terms of what bullpen arms they can go to, and they may go to their, the bullpen arms they're a little less sure of, guys like Chris Martin and Jesse Chavez, who had okay numbers but are not as trusted as much, and they're going to have bigger problems figuring out who's going to start game 5 and game 6 later on in the series to try to make up for, again, Morton being off the roster.
Andy, let's talk a little bit about then 3, 4, and 5. What is your confidence level going into Truist Park? And I know we'll get there tomorrow when we meet, but it does seem like the Astros passed the road test by playing in Fenway, which is supposedly the toughest road ballpark to play in. confidence level going in with Garcia?
First of all, I want to say Chris Martin has not been an effective pitcher since he and Gwyneth Paltrow broke up. It's a fact. He's been derivative, a little bit predictable.
Ticking clocks, man. Ticking clocks.
He's not a scientist anymore. It's a problem. Going on the road for this Astros team is not the challenge that I think other teams have, and certainly fans want to project on. The Astros play equally well at home or on the road, and in some instances, they play a more concentrated game on the road, meaning there's a lot more efficiency in what they do. They very rarely get caught up in the moments like they seem to at home sometimes. And I don't know if that's, being more focused because you have fewer distractions, some of the football cliches you get, but baseball home at field advantage is overblown from a statistic standpoint. Witness the 2019 World Series as the most recent example of that.
Right.
But, the Astros on paper and in everywhere but that 7-game series were a much better team than the Nationals, won 3 road games in Nationals home field and then lost all 4 home games. I hope we're not going to see a repeat of that this year, obviously. But the point is more that the Astros and this team, as currently constructed, isn't going to be fazed by anything they're going to face in Atlanta at Truist Park. That's just not. I don't know how intimidating an environment it is. I'm sure they're going to be pumped up. I'm sure they're going to be very into their first World Series appearance since 1999, but I don't think they have any kind of special magic or anything in the water that's going to prevent the Astros from doing what they do. And that's typically scoring 5 to 6 runs a game and pitching well enough to win. And that's what I expect them to do. That's what I expect Garcia to do when he comes in. Garcia is going to be effective until he starts having to pitch from the stretch. That's Garcia. When he can't do the paso doble on the mound, he struggles a little bit. When he doesn't have runners on, he's a lot more effective. That's true of most pitchers. So I'm not, criticizing him, but that seems to be the issue. And I think he is able to pitch within himself. Of course, I thought that about Framber last night and didn't work. So we'll just have to see. But there's nothing, I really hope there was a mechanical adjustment. He continues to throw 97, 98 for 5 innings. That'd be fantastic. But I think the Astros as a team are very well equipped to win road games in the playoffs.
Brian, let's go back to Framber for a second. He did admit in a press conference that he was nervous and he let the pressure of the World Series get to him. And I think, on one hand, I found it refreshing that he didn't downplay it. But I mean, does that have you concerned or do you think he'll bounce back in his next start?
I mean, I think he'll bounce back. Framber has worked with a sports psychologist for several years now. I assume he will have some sessions with him, a guy at the Astros complex down in the Dominican Republic.
All the sessions.
Yes. But, look, one of the things, it's part of why it's rare is part of why what he said last night's rare, right? Is this because, the way you become a top level professional baseball player, a major league baseball player, is you're able to tune out the distractions. And that doesn't mean they're not, distracted on a regular basis. But I think for a lot of them, is being on the field is the easy part because they actually know what they're doing. It's all the stuff sort of around that. So I expect he'll give us a much better start in Game 5.
And it's a little bit unfair too, because we tend to glorify the playoff performances, and rightfully so. They're for championships. They're for advancing in the playoffs. But Clayton Kershaw isn't going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher because of his playoff career. Jeff Bagwell didn't make the Hall of Fame because of his playoff performance. Framber Valdez is a very, very good pitcher. To Brian's point, he needs to take the next step. And the next step for him is mental. It's not physical. He has all the stuff in the world and he has the approach and he has his mechanics down. It's about staying within himself and not letting the moment get too big for him. And I agree. I think he'll learn from the Game 1 performance and we'll see him again probably in Game 4 and go from there.
Brian, any last thoughts just going into Game 2 and just what you want to see from the team other than a W?
Run scored. 2 runs was, very frustrating. And like I said, I think to me, that's the bigger story last night than giving up 6 runs. I guess the advantage too in the late innings is we didn't use Graveman or Presley yesterday. And so I think as the game gets in the late innings, the Astros will have an advantage because their bullpen is fresher than particularly some of the setup guys for the Braves.
All right. Well, we'll be back tomorrow. I guess, Andy, you might be on the road, but if you can, you should send us a live report from the MLB store.
I'm going to take some video because I want to, I'm going to work on the ratio of Yankees products to every other team products. I assume it's going to be a big one.
All right. Well, enjoy the game tonight, guys. Go Stros.
Go Stros.
Go Stros.